What's going on, everyone? It is Jake with Lax Weekly. Welcome to the first ever edition of the Lax Weekly Q&A. It's kind of weird. I've never shown my face before to the camera. This is me. About a week ago, I asked you guys to send me questions that you have, whether it's about me, whether it's about lacrosse. And wow, I was blown away with the response. We got over 100 questions. I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you guys. You all are so supportive of all my videos, leaving such kind words, such kind comments. I can't thank you guys enough. This has been so fun for me, and I can't wait to be on this journey with y'all. So like I said, 100 questions, that's gonna be hard to get through. I'm gonna try to just crank through as many as I can. So the most common question I got from you guys was pretty much, where did you play college lacrosse? And the answer is probably gonna surprise you, but I actually did not go to college to play lacrosse. This is probably a good time for me to tell you more about my backstory. So I started playing lacrosse in 3rd grade and absolutely loved it. And lacrosse in my community was pretty much non-existent. I've grown up my whole life here in Austin, Texas, and the sport's definitely been growing, but 15 years ago, the sport was at a completely different place. But I kept playing, and I really started getting serious about lacrosse starting around 8th grade. I joined a travel team, I really started putting in that work, and for a while I thought I was dead set on being a Division I player. And in high school, I started becoming pretty good. I was an all-state lacrosse player, I was doing really well for my team, but at the same time, I really valued my academics, so I was trying super hard in school. I knew that I wanted to go to a top business school. And so I started kind of realizing that the looks that I was getting in college weren't really up to par academically with what I wanted. And so I kind of had a tough decision to make. Am I going to choose college lacrosse or am I going to choose school? And when it came down to it, I just valued school a little bit more. So I went to school right down the street from where I lived, and now I'm currently a senior at the University of Texas at Austin. Hook 'em horns, baby. If you're a Texan watching this video, let me know in the comments. I'm really loyal to my Texans. But even though I wasn't playing, I was following lacrosse more than ever. I was trying to think about this, but I don't think there's been a day in my life in the past 4 years that I haven't watched something lacrosse related. I'm still completely obsessed with the sport. I love it so much. And given that lacrosse is a smaller sport, I've started to realize that there's not a ton of great content out there. In the past year or so, it's definitely started exploding, but I still thought there was an opportunity out there where I could provide you guys great videos. And so I started the Lax Weekly channel, and here we are. So Drew and Stuff says, first, love the videos. Thank you. And second, who is your favorite college lax team? Okay, so growing up, I was a huge Duke lacrosse fan. I lived and breathed Duke lacrosse. I went to, I think, 2 or 3 Duke lacrosse camps. I loved every single one of their players. I was a Duke fan through and through. And hey, it was a pretty good time to be a Duke fan. They won like 3 national championships. And still to this day, I love Duke. But I gotta say, right now, my favorite college lacrosse team, I know I'm gonna sound like a Fairweather fan, but Virginia. It made me so happy to see them win the national championship last year. And I thought they could win it again this year. So yeah, favorite of all time, probably Duke, but right now, Virginia. Okay, Will asks, what videos are you gonna release in the near future? Yeah, so that's something I've really tried to work on, because I know my uploading's been a little bit inconsistent. But what I'm gonna try to do is post 2 videos a week. One on Monday, one on Thursday. These could be documentaries, these could be how-to videos, but 2 really high-quality videos a week, and you guys know exactly when they're gonna come out now. Okay, Warner asks, what are your goals with Lax Weekly? When I started this channel, I did not think I was gonna get this level of support that I already have. I'm truly blown away. And now I'm really trying to take this thing more seriously. So my 2 goals with Lax Weekly are, number 1, I wanna make it easy for any lacrosse player, whether you live in Texas like me, whether you're from Baltimore or Long Island, I want any lacrosse player to be able to know exactly what they need to do to become really good. Because lacrosse is way behind sports like basketball or football. I really think if you put in the work, almost anyone can become great at lacrosse. And number 2, I want to make more fans of lacrosse. So these are things like my documentary, more entertaining videos. I love when I hear comments from people who say, I never played lacrosse, never watched it, but this documentary got me into it. So yeah, those are my 2 main goals. Okay, Zach asks, who is your favorite lacrosse player? Okay, so that's kind of like picking my favorite child. But I'd say for the last 4 years, it's been Michael Krause. He's an attackman from UVA. I think he is one of the best Dodgers I've ever seen. He's not afraid to get physical. He leans in. I love Michael Krause's game. But I'd say of all time, like in the past 10 years that I've been playing and watching lacrosse, it's got to be this attackman from Duke named Max Quinzani. If you got the chance to watch him play, you knew how incredible he was. So yeah, so I'd say of all time, Max Quinzani. Right now, it's Michael Krause. Okay, Jack Lax 0 asks, yo, sup Jake, I have a question for your video. Did you play lacrosse in middle school? Yes. Okay, so Joel asks, if I'm running in my neighborhood and doing sprints, how do I track my distance? Yeah, that's a good question. I would say when you're doing sprints, just don't overthink it. The biggest thing is that you just want to do something. So many lacrosse players overthink with their workouts, with their training. Your main goal should just be doing something every day. Hopefully that helps. Okay, Henry Jones asks, I want to know how to get a better offhand shot. Henry, that's another really good question, and I'm glad you're asking that. Shooting with your offhand can help you become a really dangerous lacrosse player. Really, the best way to get a good offhand shot is just by practicing as much as you can. So when you start shooting, what I'd recommend you do is go get a smartphone, whether you have one, you can borrow your parents', but put it on the slow-mo setting and film yourself while you shoot. And so maybe do like 10 reps and then go back, look at the slow-mo of your shot and see if your form is correct. That's gonna be really tedious, that's gonna take a lot of time, but that's how you get in those high quality reps. And then over time, once you feel like you got the form, then you can just start shooting as much as you can. Shout out to my man Henry, you always ask great questions. Thank you so much. Okay, so Joe says, overall, I just want some advice to shoot like the best shooter in the PLL. I love that. Dream big. You wanna have big goals. Okay, the best shooter in the PLL. I'd say the best shooter in the PLL right now is Ryan Brown. So Joe, what I would do is watch as much Ryan Brown tape as you can get your hands on. I'm pretty sure right now you can watch a ton of free PLL games. So yeah, watch as much Ryan Brown as you can and maybe try to slow it down and see exactly what he's doing with his form. I think I'm gonna make a Ryan Brown video in a little bit. Okay, Trevor Broughton says, hey Jake, hope all is well with you. Hope all is well with you too, Trevor. Okay, my question for you is, I know you talk about dialing in on one player and focusing on every aspect of their game, which I think is great, but how should I also try and integrate my game into my favorite players? Wow, that's a really excellent question, Trevor, and shout out to you. I know you've been commenting on a lot of my videos. Okay, so yeah, that is one thing I talk about. If you've watched a lot of my videos, you see like how to play like a certain player. But how do you actually take the parts of that player and put them into your own game? I think my favorite way to do this is break down a dodge or a play that you really like from that player. Just one play. And then go out to a field or your backyard and just practice that one play over and over again. So don't overwhelm yourself. Just get like one play and just try to practice it over and over again. And once you master that play, you can move on to another one. Okay, so Luke says, I absolutely love your videos and your weekly newsletter. Thank you so much, Luke. And also, this is a good time to say, if you're not subscribed to the free Lax Weekly email newsletter, please do it now. Okay, and Luke's question is, what do you think is the best way to improve footwork? The ladder, the 5-cone drill, anything? Okay, Luke, the best drill you can use to improve your footwork is definitely the jump rope. I stole this directly from boxing. The best boxers in the world are masters at the jump rope. And yeah, if you've never learned a jump rope before, it can be a little frustrating. But once you get it down, it's like riding a bike. You can just do it. And I'm telling you, if you jump rope 10 minutes a day, every day for 30 days, your footwork would be completely different. You wouldn't even recognize yourself. That's my challenge to all of you guys. Okay, Anthony says, I love playing the game, but contact is a problem I run into. I can get scared with how strong and big my defender is. I love playing attack, and I was wondering if you could give me some tips. Yeah, that's a good question. So contact is definitely gonna be something you have in lacrosse. And I think my first piece of advice is if you think that you're getting hit a lot, maybe it's time to incorporate some strength training into your routine. Number 2 is just training your mind to accept the fact that you're gonna get hit. So every time you're in practice or a game, know that you're gonna get hit, like mentally accept that before the game starts. And so then when you actually get hit, you won't be surprised. It won't be like something that just completely came out of the blue. And that's something we can all get better at, like training your mind to be able to think a certain way. Okay, so Cole says, hey, I'm a midfielder from Pennsylvania. Do you know any drills to improve my split dodge? Okay, so you can break down a split dodge into 3 parts. The approach, the actual move, and then what you do after it. So what I would do is practice those 3 parts. So practice part number 1, squaring up your defender. Practice number 2, the actual move where you're going left to right or right to left. And then practice number 3, exploding out of your dodge. But I don't think there's any fancy drill you need. You just need to go back to basics. Great question, Cole. Okay, Christian says, at what point do you overtrain for lacrosse? First of all, shout out to my man Christian. I know you've been a fan for a long time. In my opinion, you're overtraining for lacrosse when you don't feel like yourself, or you feel like you're not getting to do the things that you want to do. So obviously, if you're trying to become really good at lacrosse, it's gonna be a big part of your life. But if you're just hating every second of practicing it, then that's not sustainable. So I think the biggest thing for any lacrosse player is really trying to decide what you want to get out of the sport. Do you want to go play Division I lacrosse, or do you just want to play and have fun? Those are 2 completely different goals, and those are gonna require 2 completely different amounts of training. Okay, so Jack DB says, I'm in desperate need for a drill to get my hands back. That's a really good question, because as you know, getting your hands back is one of the best ways you can increase the power on your shot. Okay, so this is probably going to be really annoying, but I think the best way you can practice getting your hands back is just by doing slow-mo shots. Like, really bring the stick back and just slow-mo go through the shot, making sure that your hands are back. And then you can go a little faster, and then you can go a little faster, and then ultimately you're gonna go back to doing it full speed. There's no reason to go full speed until you have that form down. Great question, Jack. Okay, so Jack says, I love the emails and have been following them for a while. Thank you, Jack. And he says, I feel the need to build strength in my game. I'm 14 and I've always been skinny, but I want to change that. Do you have any tips? Yeah, that's a really good question, Jack. And I feel like 14 is a perfect time to start incorporating strength into your routine. Start with exercises that you know how to do. So that could be like bench press, push-ups. Those are really good for chest. You could do dips for triceps. You want to focus on those compound movements, things that use a lot of muscles. So yeah, Jack, overall, I would just say focus on those basic movements, really focus on your core. So like planks, squats, you could do push-ups, bench press, just those basic movements that you know how to do. Try to have some sort of routine where maybe you lift every other day or something, but don't overthink it. Just start small and you can work your way up. Okay, Kevin the Red Assassin asks, what do you need to do to start on Varsity as a freshman? Okay, first of all, that's got to be the best username I've seen so far. Okay, so if you want to start on Varsity, you don't want to focus on a ton of different things about your game. You want to really hone in on one skill that you can become the absolute best at. So for example, you could be the best outside shooter in your high school lacrosse program. If you are, then your coach kind of has to put you on Varsity. So yeah, one skill, it could be outside shooting, it could be crease finishing, it could be dodging, but just become the absolute best at one skill and you will find a starting spot on the Varsity team. Okay, Mr. Moist Man says, a question I have would be, what skills would a player need to develop to play at the next level like college lacrosse, being on and off the field? Off the field, I think the biggest thing you can work on is the mental game. You know, lacrosse is a mental game more than anything. If you're not confident, if you don't believe in yourself, then you can't really become a good lacrosse player. Okay, so Drew says, I play 3 sports. I'm only in 8th grade, but want to focus on lacrosse. What would you recommend lacrosse workout-wise along with what I currently do? Okay, so Drew, that's awesome that you play 3 sports. I know you probably want to focus on lacrosse, and maybe that's what you have to do depending on your circumstances. But I'd say for as long as you can, try to play multiple sports. It's been shown time and time again that college coaches love athletes who play multiple sports, and it really helps you out in competitive situations. So yeah, that can be like pickup basketball, that can be tennis, rock climbing, running. It doesn't matter what you do, but just play multiple sports. Okay, Lacrosse Edit says, can European players get recruited? Because I'm from Europe and want to get recruited and play lacrosse professionally. Yes, absolutely. You can get recruited to play lacrosse no matter where you play. But since you're not from the US, you're probably just gonna have to be more proactive on your own about recruiting. So you're gonna have to put together a highlight reel, you're gonna have to cold email coaches. But if you really want to play college lacrosse, you can definitely make this happen. I believe in you. Okay, Bryce asks, do you think pro lacrosse players without endorsements will be making millions of dollars in the somewhat near future? That's a really interesting question. I've definitely thought a lot about that. So yeah, in the near future, I don't think lacrosse players are going to get like $1 million salaries, but I do think we're on the path to where they could get like $100,000, which I think would definitely be enough to where anyone who could play professional lacrosse would choose to play. Okay, Micah Quinn says, will Michael Sowers be playing with Mac O'Keefe next season? That would be unbelievable. If that actually happened, I just can't imagine being a college defense. Like, how are you supposed to guard those two? Oh my gosh, that would be unbelievable. Right now, my pick for Michael Sowers is Duke. They're losing some attackmen. They got the best coaching staff in the country. That would be weird, but that would be cool to see Sowers in royal blue. Okay, Aiden says, when do you think lacrosse will get the chance to become an Olympic sport? I'm not sure. I know that they have to mess around with the rules a lot. I guess we'll see. Okay, David says, Sowers seemed to very much like playing at Klockner this year, no? Yes, funny enough, I was actually at that game. I flew from Texas up to Charlottesville and got to watch Michael Sowers play in person. It was unbelievable. He absolutely lit up UVA. That would be pretty cool to see him in a UVA uniform. Okay, James asks, what skills do you need for each grade throughout high school? James, that's a really good question, and that's going to take me a while to answer, but I promise you I will be making a video about that in the future, and I definitely want to shout you out. So great idea for a video. David asks, are the 2020 seniors going to get another year of eligibility? So you've probably seen the news from the Ivy League. They didn't let their seniors come back, but then I see a lot of players like in Syracuse or Penn State, they're coming back. So I think it just kind of depends on the school. Brendan says, do you have to play club lax to get recruited? That's a really good question, and the answer is no, you don't have to play. But if you don't play club lax, you're gonna have to be really proactive about your recruiting. So you're gonna have to get together with your coach and strategize a plan. So yeah, you don't have to play club, but it's just gonna make for more work on your end. NS says, can you give me some good drills to do on my own? The 2 best drills I know for lacrosse, number 1, wall ball. Number 2, jump rope. Set a timer on your phone for 15 minutes, do wall ball, then set a timer on your phone for another 15 minutes, do jump rope. Do that as much as you can. Okay, Flippin' Filipino says how to be more accurate with shots. Yeah, so the best way to be accurate is by picking one spot when you practice. So yeah, what I would do is pick bottom right. That's the hardest place for a goalie to stop. Hit bottom right until it's automatic. And once you get there, then you can pick another spot. But you don't want to be shooting all around when you practice. You want to be hitting one spot consistently. Okay, Charlington says, how do you go about strengthening your offhand capabilities? That's a good question. I wouldn't overthink it. So yeah, so maybe you want to slow it down at the beginning. You don't have to go full speed, but you just want to get that form down. But really, it comes down to reps. It comes down to volume. You just want to practice as much as possible. Okay, Lincoln says, what is the most effective way to play wall ball? Okay, so yeah, I actually used to think about this a lot, and I have some thoughts on wall ball. In my opinion, you should be treating wall ball like a science lab, where you're just trying to figure out new passes, new ideas. It's almost like a bunch of experiments that you're doing. So there's no perfect routine. I would just try to do wall ball for time. So maybe you're out there on the wall for 30 minutes and just figure out what works for you. Okay, so Alex says, I play lacrosse at Essex University in the UK. Wow, that's really cool. And he says, I'm quite confused about the technique form of the shooting cradle and how to do it. Sometimes I've seen players use their bottom hand. Do you have any idea for the exact technique with that wind-up cradle? This is kind of awkward, but I'd say like go to a field and just practice your wind-up like almost like a shuffle. You're just kind of hopping around the field, and you're not shooting, you're just winding up, winding up, winding up. And it's gonna be really awkward, but I promise you, if you just keep doing it, don't even worry about the form, but your brain's just gonna figure it out. So just try to do that for like 10 or 15 minutes a day. I promise you it's weird, it'll just happen. Okay, wow, that was a lot of questions that I just answered. That was a really long video. If you're still watching this video, thank you so much for being such a great fan of Lax Weekly. I can't wait to be making more videos in the future. You guys are incredible. As always, let me know what you want to see next in the comments, and I'll see you next time.